Woody Guthrie was a phenomenal singer and songwriter who was integral to the popularization and revival of folk music that happened in the 60s. He inspired well known artists along the way, such as Bob Dylan and Bruce Springsteen, who we probably know better now because they're more recent. Um, and the Dust Bowl Ballads is a significant feature of Guthrie's legacy because it was some of the first songs he ever recorded, and he was also a survivor of the Dust Bowl, who migrated to California, kind of like the character Tom Joad from The Grapes of Wrath that I did last week. And with that being said, he did not just recollect the Dust Bowl in his music, rather, his legacy lives on as one of the most prominent protest artist of 1900s America, um, which means that he wrote a lot about uh, issues in America that he was passionate about. The song I wanted to highlight from his catalog is titled 1913 Massacre. And this song talks about the tragedy at the Italian Hall in 1913 in Michigan. This song was written and released in 1941, which is just a year after the Dust Bowl Ballads was released. And the story of the 1913 massacre is a sad and frustrating story that really didn't have to happen. Uh, Over 500 coal workers and their families were celebrating Christmas Eve at the Italian Hall, which is on the second floor of the building it's in. And someone in the crowded room ended up yelling fire, inciting a mass panic at the party. Everyone was attempting to escape down the steep stairway, but in the process, 73 people were trampled to death. Um, Unfortunately, the majority of the casualties were children who were caught in the thick of a rush of frightened people. And it was a shame because no fire ever existed in that party, and the person or people that incited the crowd did that intentionally for unclear reasons. So um, many people believe, including Woody, that the people to blame for this massacre were most likely the owners of the coal mines that these coal workers worked for. He explicitly writes in the song that the coal owners' thugs were the ones to yell fire. Um, and the song also ends with the quote, "See what your greed for money has done." Guthrie is writing about the disconnect and tension that was and is very common between the working man and the bosses or owners of the business. This was especially the case at the time of this song in America. Labor unions were fighting for fair treatment in coal mines for so long, and owners typically did not really care about the workers' livelihoods outside of their work in the coal mines. I think Guthrie wanted to bring light to the unfair treatment occurring in these situations, and he was the type of songwriter to always fight for the common man, which is because he was a common man. And that leads into your second question, which is about Guthrie's intentions for writing about the Dust Bowl. To me, it seemed like an obvious topic for him because he was a first-hand experiencer of the Dust Bowl. This was his life, and most likely at the time he wrote the album, the most defining event in his life. Who better to write about any event than someone who lived right in the thick of that event or struggle that the Dust Bowl was? Uh, Guthrie was a talented songwriter regardless of the topic. He didn't need to write about the Dust Bowl, clearly, but he was the perfect type of person and singer to encapsulate the Dust Bowl in the 30s. His folky southern style is the right type of singer for listeners to learn or remember uh, those awful storms that happened in Texas and Oklahoma, this in the South. And I think he made a great choice to write an album about this part of American history. Like I said, he didn't need to do that because he would have been successful writing about anything just because he was so talented. But people would not have such a memorable album to listen to if he chose some other topic. And we're talking about a folk album from 1940 in a college class in 2019 to learn about a part of American history. So I think that that is pretty damning evidence enough as to whether he made a good choice about writing this album.